We're going to move on to steering. Down here they call this your steering box. That there is your pitman arm, this guy. Connecting rod, connecting arms and links. And you got your steering rod, right attached to the steering box, right here, all the way up. This here is what they call a socket. You're going to be explaining steering. This is a joint, socket, joint. You're going to say, this is my steering box. It's properly mounted and secure with no missing or loose nuts or bolts. It's not cracked, leaking, or damaged. You're going to say, this is my steering rod. I'm checking to make sure that my steering rod and my connecting rods, you point, steering rod and connecting rods, they're properly mounted and secured with no missing, loose nuts, bolts, or cotter keys, or castle nuts. They are not leaking. I'm checking the joints and the socket to make sure it's not loose. You would shake it like that, and you would say that I'm going to check down here and make sure that all my bushings are greased. Bushings. Okay. And it's another connecting rod, which you would say it's all part of the. It's not bent. It's not broken. It's not loose. It's not cracked, etc. So you would say just like that. Each that's a formula for each steering component. Then the leaf springs down here. Say these are my leaf springs. Maybe checking them to make sure they're not cracked, broken, loose, shifted, or missing. I have it is not cracked, broke, loose, no springs are missing, or no springs are shifted. Just like that. I'm going to say my U-bolts, they're present, they are not missing, bent, they are properly mounted, secured with no missing or loose nuts or bolts. I'm going to say these are my leaf spring hangers, properly mounted and secured, no missing or loose nuts or bolts. I'm going to say they're not cracked, broken, or bent, and no spring hangers are missing, and they're not distorted. Okay? You have to look at your book. There may be some words in yours that differ from mine, so this is just a base to get you through for what you're supposed to say to the tester. Over here is your shock. It's this guy right there. Oh, easy one. Properly mounted, secured. My shock is properly mounted, secured with no missing or loose nuts or bolts, and it's not leaking any grease. That's all there is to steering. And again, you have to double check in your book. There may be more words they want you to say. Now I'm saying I'm going to move on to brakes and check my braking system. Brake chamber right here, or brake can, but I say brake chamber. It's properly mounted and secured with no my brake chamber is properly mounted and secured with no missing or loose nuts or bolts. It's not cracked, bent, damaged, have any dents in there, and it's not leaking. And the hoses are properly coupled to my brake chamber, and the hoses itself is securely fastened, coupled properly, not missing any. On the brake chamber I missed clamps. It's properly mounted and secure with no missing or loose nuts, bolts, clamps. It's not cracked, dented, cracked, broken, or leaking. Hose that's attached is securely fastened and coupled properly. The hose is not cut, has no cuts, bumps, bulges, or abrasive damage from rubbing up against other parts in the engine bay, and it is not leaking, and it's supplying air properly. And then you say here down here, this is your slack adjuster, this guy right here. Slack adjuster, that guy. Push rod up here. Say my slack adjuster, check my slack adjuster. Properly mounted, secure with no missing and loose nuts and bolts. It's not bent, missing, broken, or bent, broken, missing, or loose, excuse me. And then you say, this is my, sorry about that, I got a text. This is my push rod. And you say that when you pull on it, on the slack adjuster push rod, it should not move more than 1 inch when the brakes are applied or when you pull on it. Now each brake chamber is exactly the same. Everything that I just said, you're going to say over and over for the front tires, and then when you inspect your rear dual tires, you're going to say the same exact thing for that brake chamber that's back there, no different. Okay? And then you're going to move on inside the wheel. You're going to say, this is my brake drum. This is my brake drum. Properly mounted and secured with no missing or loose nuts or bolts. It's not cracked, dented, and it has no holes or welds, and it has no fluid on the drum. Then the lining on the inside, that's the inner lining of this drum here, inner lining inside the drum. And then you can see right here is the, it's hard to get, it's the shoes. That is just so hard to see with this camera. There we go. This is the lining of the drum. The drum is up here, this part, that piece. That's the lining underneath it, and then the brake shoes inside. So you're going to say there's no oil and grease on the drum. You're going to say this is in a brake lining. I'm making sure that it's not excessively worn and it has no grease or oil on it on the inside. You're going to say my brake shoes are not excessively worn and they have a minimum of 1/2 inch to 1/4 inch thickness. And then that's it for the braking components. Move on to the tire. This is my tire. It's you're going to start off by saying it has to have a minimum of a 4/32 of an inch deep tread up on the front. Now the rear tire, you're going to say it would have a minimum of 2/32 of an inch tread on top. So once you say that about the 4/32, you're going to say, I'm going to check, make sure the tire is worn evenly, that it has no tread separation, and that there's no cuts, bumps, bulges, or damage on the tire, or any abrasive damage on the sidewalls of the tire. So that's this part, sidewall or sidewall, inner sidewall. And you're going to say that I am not missing any valve stems or caps. And you're going to say I will make sure and check for proper tire inflation by using a tire pressure gauge. Kicking it is not going to give you anything. You don't kick it. Say you're going to use, you would use a tire pressure gauge. While you're down here, that's it for the tire. You'll say the rim now. You'll say, this is my rim. I'm inspected. Make sure it's not cracked, bent, broken, or has any welds on it. You're going to say that I'm going to check my lug nuts to make sure they're all present. Put your hand around them like that. There's no rusty trails of water coming out from the bottoms of the lug bolt holes. I'm going to make sure that I have no shiny threads on my lug studs. I'm going to make sure that there's no cracks radiating from the bolt holes, and I'm going to make sure that the holes are not distorted in any way, meaning that this, like, it's kind of sitting crooked on the they go on the tractor trailer. Sorry about that. And then you're going to tell them, after you tell them about the lug bolts and studs, you're going to tell them about the axle seal or the hub oil. That's the centerpiece. Basically, all you're going to say about it is that I'm going to check my hub oil seal. I'm going to make sure and check that if it has a sight window, which most of them don't have a sight window in there. Some do, but I think that you can pull this. There we go. Comes right off. See? But you don't want to do that. That's not a sight window. That just keeps that in there. Okay, so this one, just to show you, there is no sight window. Some of them have it though. It's like a little window and it just shows you that the fluid's full. You would just tell them that I'm checking to make sure that it has fluid in there and that there is no oil leaking. It's my hub oil, just like this. My hub oil, checking to make sure it's not leaking out of the hub and that it has fluid in it. If it had a sight window, I would just use that window to see. That's it. Each set of tires you're going to do this on. Just like that, all the way down to the hub oil. And then you get yourself up, move on to the next thing. Now again, it's your test, so if you want to go back to the rear set of tires, since we're on tires, I'll go ahead and do that. Or you can move around this test however you want. So my tester just told me to tell the differences, so that's what I'm going to do for you. But you will need to say everything that I just said about the tires, about the brakes, about everything. So before you start with tires, you poke your head in there and say, I'm going to check my dual tires. These are dual tires. That's the difference between the front and the back. You got to say that. You say, these are dual tires. And I'm going to check the brakes on my dual tires. So you're going to go back inside there. Right behind the tire, you just got to look around for it. Each truck's different, but there we go. There she is. There's the brake chamber. The slack adjuster for this son of a gun is going to be on the opposite side of this damn thing. I can't get under there right now because we're in the pit here, but it's on the opposite side and of this chamber, and you say the same exact thing about all the brakes, the hoses, the chambers, and you show the inside, and you can't see because it's very dark. Same thing about all of the brakes, all the linings, the drum, everything. You say everything the same. Then the only difference is you say, when you inspect the tire, you say these are dual tires, and you start out by saying, checking the bud spacing between the dual tires. That's that. Make sure in the spacing they are spaced properly and that there is no foreign objects that would prevent this the tires from moving. And then you say the difference between the rear tires and the front tires is that back here you have to have a minimum of 2 32 of an inch tread depth rather than 4 32 of an inch up front. Say all the things about the wearing evenly, the tread separation, and then the same exact thing. The oiling, the hub oil, the lug bolts, the rim, all that stuff. That's all the same. However, when you get back here, after you explain all that, you got to tell them about only one side, of course. They're both the same. You got to tell them about the leaf springs, the hangers, the shocks if your truck has it, and you got to tell them about these bags right here, airbags, that they are not cracked, ripped, torn. They're properly mounted, secure with no missing and loose nuts or bolts, and they're not leaking. So if you want to do tires, that's fine. We move on to the door. I'm going to say this is my door. I got to check. Open up. Make sure it opens and closes securely. So you can tell it does. There you go. You're going to say the hinges are properly mounted and secured with no missing or loose nuts or bolts. You're going to say that my weather stripping is not excessively worn or missing and it is present. On the outside, you just tell them about the window. Tell them it's clean, it's not cracked or broken, it's not anything preventing vision from seeing out of it, and it's not excessively dirty. Same thing with the mirrors. I know we talked about mirrors inside, but that's for adjustment, not for the other stuff. So you gotta tell them mirrors and mirror brackets. These are the brackets. Those are the mirrors. They're properly mounted and secured with no missing or loose nuts, bolts, or clamps. And you tell them the mirrors themselves are clean, they're not cracked or missing or excessively dirty or broken. And you tell them about the fuel tank after that. Fuel tank, point at it, properly mounted and secure with no missing or loose nuts or bolts, and it's not cracked, bent, dented, or leaking. And you tell them the fuel cap is present and it's securely tight. Then after that, let's see here. I'm gonna move right under the truck. You don't got to say anything about the DEF. If you guys have that equipped, you should. Then you're going to tell them about the drive shaft. Right down there, that shaft. This guy. Right here. That guy. And you show down there, that's the yoke. Right there in the middle. The U-joint, also called, but they call it the yoke on these. So you would say, properly mounted secure with no missing or loose nuts or bolts. It's not bent, broken, or cracked or damaged. And then you're going to say that there is nothing in that yoke, no foreign objects that would stop the drive shaft from turning. Then you're going to talk about the frame of the vehicle. You can say, I'm going to check the frame of my vehicle. Properly mounted and secured. It's not cracked, bent, or damaged. And there are no bends in that's the longitudinal frame axis. That's what that's called. And then across from that, the pieces that are across are called the cross members. So if you go under his guy, you can see that's a cross member back there going across above the differential back there. That's a cross member going across that. That's another one right here. You say that they're not bent, broken, they're properly mounted and secured, they're not loose or missing. Then after that, you're going to go to the back of the truck and you're going to teach that that tester, how that gate works. You don't have a headache rack, so you don't have to worry about that. That's for the trailer. I mean, you don't have a trailer, so no worries there. Go back here and you'll teach them. Operate the lift gate. You say, I'm going to show you how my lift gate works. Operate it. Use the hand pieces, operate the gate. The most important thing you say, and it's not, my lift gate is not damaged, and it's ready to receive cargo and securely locks and fastens. So you pull it down, pull it up, lock this latch, show them how it works, and then show them how the lift gate works, just like I just showed you. And that you tell them about the lift gate. You tell them my lift gate's properly mounted and secured, has no missing or loose nuts or bolts. It's not broken, bent, damaged. Explain that part to them. It's not much to it, but it'll be, the specifics will be in your book for what to say. While you are back under the truck here, I've forgotten about this. You want to tell them about your mud flaps. So They know what mud flaps are. Some people call them a tire protection guard, but you can call them whatever the heck you want. It doesn't matter. Tell them these are my mud flaps. Properly mounted and secured with no missing or loose nuts or bolts. They bolt to this piece down here. Bolts. Properly mounted and secured with no missing or loose nuts or bolts. It's not ripped, torn, or frayed, or excessively worn, and it hangs down to at least the halfway point at the tire. And I believe that is the entire pre-trip for a Class B vehicle. If I missed anything, I apologize. I did this really fast because I made sure that you're, can practice and test. And feel free to give me any notes, but these videos are for you, buddy. So I hope you have a good day. Bye.